Welcome. Let's begin. Today is the 22nd day of Lent, the Wednesday of the third week of Lent. Let me give you a quick quote from Thomas A. Kempis. Whatever is done out of charity, no matter how small and insignificant, is profitable in the eyes of God, who looks not so much at what we do as to the love with which we do it. Express your gratitude for someone in your life by writing a letter, an email, or a text message to a family member, a friend, colleague, or your parish priest. Try to be specific about what they do that is so meaningful to you. So, whether we give a little or we give a lot, it all matters in the eyes of God, as long as it comes from the heart. If you give or help out of guilt, well, that's a bit different, isn't it? You don't want to do something out of charity for guilt. You want to mean it. There is a show that I watch every Christmas season. It's called The Christmas Card. Beautiful little Hallmark movie about this soldier who gets a Christmas card, a random Christmas card, and he holds on to the words in this card by what this woman says, and then he vows when he gets out, he's going to go to this little town and hopefully find her. Well, he does, and it's a beautiful little story. I'm not going to tell you everything about it, but there's a part in this movie that's making me think of this that I just read. They're having a little charity drive, a little fundraising drive for the homeless and those who are down and out on their luck. You know, maybe families that have little kids that don't have much, and they're picking up donations, coats, scarves, whatever you can supply. Well, this woman that he got this Christmas card from, she's engaged to this fella who is pretty rich. And he's a wine broker. He travels the world. He doesn't sit still long enough to give her the attention a relationship would need, but he's there now because he sees this other guy and he kind of feels threatened. Oh, somebody's trying to move in on my woman. So what he does is, this rich guy, he goes into town and he goes to a department store, I guess, and he buys up all brand new stuff, coats, scarves, gloves, shoes, whatever, all different sizes for grown-ups, kids. He comes into this church hall with bags of stuff, and when he pours it out on the table, you see all the price tags or whatever is still hanging off of it. And he's smiling because he's like, hey, I did something great in her eyes. I did this charitable thing. And everybody's very appreciative of it. They're not going to turn it down. And here comes this little soldier fella who doesn't have a whole lot. I mean, he right now he doesn't have a home. He's actually staying with her and her family. Her dad kind of invited him in. So he doesn't have a whole lot. He's not from money. And one of the workers at this this charity drive, keeps calling it a fundraiser, charity drive, she's like, oh, well, what do you have there? And he's like, well, I just thought I'd donate some stuff to the cause. And when he brings this stuff up, you could tell it's not brand new. He didn't put he didn't go through a lot of gift wrapping or anything. It's like it's in a box and here it is. And it's random things. And they're very appreciative. And the other ladies are like, oh, isn't that just so sweet? He's such a gentleman, and how kind of him to do that. Well, they didn't say all of this when the rich guy brought all his stuff up to the counter. They're like, oh, that's just sweet. Thank you very much for doing that. It's about the thought, I guess, or why he did the things he did. This rich guy put all this stuff out there just to impress his girlfriend. And then he gets mad about it because the soldier fella gets complimented on the little bit that he gave. He didn't give a lot. He gave a little bit because he didn't have much to give. And he gets complimented far better than the rich guy who just pours bags of new clothes on a cabinet. And, it's like, there wasn't a whole lot of sincerity in it. It's just, I'm going to do this to impress her, and that ought to do it. Well, he gets mad, the rich guy, and he leaves. He walks out, and then, of course, she sees that he's upset, and she runs out after him, and she's like, everybody's pretty impressed by what you did in there. And he's like, yeah, well, what about you? It's all about, you're supposed to give from the heart. And he was doing it for different reasons. It's a beautiful little movie. If you've never seen it, I encourage you to watch it. At Christmas time, if you get the Hallmark channel, it'll probably be on there. If not, you can find the DVD of it online. It's called The Christmas Card. But it makes me think of this, in charity. No matter how small or insignificant, it is profitable in the eyes of God. And it's not so much as what we do, but how we do it. You could do something very small for someone, a little insignificant thing. But if you're doing it from the heart and you're doing it for the right reasons, it means a lot, as is not being extravagant about something and just to show off. Let's also look at Matthew chapter 5, verse 19. But whoever obeys and teaches these commandments will be called greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Consider each of the 10 commandments and make a firm amendment to change a habit in your life that leads you to sin. Very important. You have to look at your 10 commandments and think about, well, what am I doing? Am I doing enough to follow these commandments in my life? Or am I just kind of ignoring everything and just going about my merry way? But you have to look at them and say, well, what am I doing that's more hurtful in my life than what's helping me? So what are the 10 commandments? Not everybody knows them by heart. Even I don't know them by heart. So let's look at them. Number 1, you shall have no other gods before me. We've said this before. God is very jealous. He wants your love. He's not going to force you to love him. You have to willingly on your own do it. We have free will, remember? But there shall be no other gods before him. He created you. How dare you love something else? You shall not make idols. They did this a lot in the Bible, didn't they? When they would stray away from the Lord, they'd go carve out a golden calf or whatever else they would make up that they would worship. That's not God. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Lots of people do this one. Lots of people. I told my earthly father when Lent first started, and I said, well, what are you giving up for Lent? And he gave me this little excuse. He said, oh, well, by the time I think about it, Lent's over with. I love my earthly father with all my heart. He's not a very religious man, and I have to pray for him a lot. I know that he loves the Lord. He doesn't. My father's very simple. Okay, he did not finish school. He grew up in a time where, it was more important that you help work the fields than it was to attend school. So he didn't go to school for very long in his life. But I know that he loves the Lord. But he also curses quite a bit. And I told him this year, I said, when Lent started, I said, look, I'm giving up coffee and hot tea for Lent. Why don't you give up cursing for Lent? Because he does take the Lord's name in vain. And he's like, well, it's hard to do. I said, well, okay, maybe if you want to cuss, you can cuss, but leave God's name out of it, please. And I don't know if he's been trying or he doesn't even think about it because it's like innate just to say those things. And every time I hear somebody saying it or saying really, really terrible curse words, I kind of flinch. I've gotten away from that. And it's good to get away from that because you don't want to do that. Number 4, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. He's talking about Sunday. I remember growing up in the little town I grew up. It was kind of like Mayberry on the Andy Griffith show. Nobody worked on Sundays. Stores were closed. Yeah, you may have a gas station open. But, big department stores were closed. You went to church, or if you didn't go to church, you didn't work. You stayed home, or family gathered together, had big family meals, just enjoying company of loved ones. Kids would all play in the yard, or in our case, me and my cousins, we were chasing chickens and ducks. My grandparents had a farm. I loved it. Number 5, honor your father and your mother. That one sometimes can be hard to do as well because you may have parents who mistreated you, who abused you. Or maybe you don't know your parents. Maybe you were given up as a baby for adoption. Something else happened in your life. And what you don't know is it's hard to have that reaction to someone you don't know. Or maybe you're resentful of them for it. This also goes back to forgiveness. If you do know of them or you grew up with them and they mistreated you, they were bad parents, it's hard to forgive them for that. If you know better now, you've turned to God, you've asked for Him to change your ways, you want guidance and love and support, and you want to live a better life, not what you grew up in, it's hard to forgive the hurt and the pain because it's coming from your parent or parents. Maybe it's coming from grandparents. You can honor a father and a mother who have hurt you without saying the abuse was okay. It starts with that forgiveness. And maybe you don't have a relationship with them anymore. But it's honoring them by just not saying terrible things to them or about them and just making peace with it. Number 6, you shall not murder. Well, we know that there are murderers in this world, don't we? That's a bad one. And you wonder, well, how can anybody come back from that? If you've murdered someone, how do you ask for forgiveness of that? And you hear all these prison conversions where these inmates say, oh, well, I killed somebody and now I'm in here, but guess what? I found the Lord in here. I'm not going to say that the Lord's not in prison. The Lord is everywhere. And I'm sure He is after you to change your ways, but you're kind of now in a position where you really ain't got too much other way to go, right? Because you're not free anymore to keep doing it. Because think about it the other way. If you were still free, serial killers, okay? They killed their first victim. They didn't suddenly sit down and say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. God, please forgive me for doing that. And then if they just don't do it again, well, maybe they get caught, maybe they don't. But they heartfeltly meant it. But if they don't, they're just going to keep doing it. They become serial killers. They like it. They enjoy the thrill, or there's something about it that they like. Something terribly wrong in the brain. But how do you forgive? To me, that's somebody who's just working for the devil. That you've got something bad in you if you've killed someone and you enjoyed it. Number 7, you shall not commit adultery. Also a big one. Human beings. Oh boy. Looking with their eyes. We're all pulled to something we see with our eyes. lustful things. It, the Ten Commandments is everything that God wants you to do, and everything the devil, everything the devil wants in the other spectrum wants you to do. He wants you to have other gods besides God in heaven. He wants you to make these little statues to pray in front of. He wants you to curse God. He wants you to work on Sundays, and which some people can't help that. If you're working at a hospital or you're working for a store that is just open 7 days a week, you don't have much of an option, do you? He wants you to hate your parents. He wants you to kill. He wants you to sleep around with someone that you're not married to. He wants all the terrible things. Stealing, which we haven't gotten to yet in depth a little bit. He wants you to hate the people you live around. He wants you to be envious of other people. He wants you to do everything you shouldn't do. And God's saying, no, you need to do this my way. When you commit an adultery, you're saying that the vows you took, if the vows you took, whether they're in a church or justice of the peace, however you took those vows, they're all in front of God, because God's everywhere. You took a vow to love this other person, thick and thin, better for worse, rich or sick, poor and good health. All the vows that you take. Committing yourself. You put a ring on a finger. The ring is a circle, a complete circle, no beginning, no end. It's not like it's open on one end and says, oh, well, I can slip out of that every now and then. I know you can take a ring off, but that ring should also be around your heart. Your love for that person. How deep does it go? People nowadays take marriage as if it's it doesn't matter. It's like cutting your nails or something. It's just changing your underwear. There's an old saying, you change wives more than you change your underwear. People don't take that covenant very seriously anymore. And that is sad. You can commit adultery just with your eyes. Let's say, you didn't physically get with someone else. You're looking at pornography. You're looking at dirty magazines. You're just flirting with someone else. That's still committing adultery. It's not being true to your spouse. It's saying your spouse isn't enough. You're not enough, so I'm going to do this. Maybe that'll be enough, but guess what? It's not. I'll take it a step further. I'll take it a step further. Until finally you're in bed with someone else who's not your spouse. And then you gave into the temptation. Hey, guess what? There's that shiny thing that the devil was pulling you to. That hook in it was the fact that the minute you're done, if you have a good conscience, you had a great conscience, you wouldn't be there in the first place. But immediately you're like, what did I do? I just messed up. And that guilt follows you around. You drag it back home, and whether your spouse picks up on it right then or not, maybe you can cover it for a little bit, but eventually the guilt eats away at you, and then they know something's wrong, or you're lashing out. Something's going to happen, and it's going to come to the surface. And it's hard for the other spouse to forgive. Even if they say they forgive you for it and the marriage continues, it never goes away. It's always in the background, that bad thing that was done. So just stay away from it. Don't commit adultery. You shall not steal. That could be stealing anything. Stealing someone's idea, stealing a physical thing that they have, stealing someone's emotion, stealing their rights, stealing their innocence. Thou shalt not steal. You want something in life? Get out there and work for it. You want somebody to love you? Form a relationship with someone. Get some trust. Build something with somebody emotionally. You don't just take things that you want. You see a lot of this going on nowadays. Smash and grabs, they call them. People are just going in and running rampant and taking all this stuff. What does that do for you? Yeah, you may turn around and resell it and you got some money in your pocket. What do you do with it? You go spend it on something you didn't need. What is going on with the world? What is going on with society? What society, you may ask? We're living in a free-for-all. And it's not right. So many people turning away from God. Doing all the things they shouldn't be doing. The devil's running rampant in this world right now. Yeah, we need some control. Number 9, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Hating somebody. Lying about someone. It doesn't have to be the person you live directly next to. A neighbor is anyone else in your life that you may come in contact with. Number 10, you shall not covet. Usually it's like, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife. This goes kind of hand in hand with the adultery when it comes to that. But coveting anything someone has. Say, well, you have this and it's so much nicer. I'm going to get something a little nicer than that. And just to show it off and brag. Don't want what someone else wants, because you don't know how they got it. You don't know how long they're going to have it. You don't know what they went through to get it. Whether it's something they worked hard for or something they took themselves that they shouldn't have. You don't know the circumstances behind all of that. So don't covet. Keep the 10 Commandments in your life and think about it. And try to change a habit that led you to any sin that goes against God's rules, God's laws. And that is it for today. Thank you for listening, and hopefully you'll listen to the next one. Listen to many more of my ideas and thoughts, and we go through Lent. And when Lent will be done, we're going to get into other prayer books and just other readings. We'll be saying rosaries and novenas and all that kind of stuff. So thank you for joining me, and thank you to all of my subscribers. I know it's a small community, and maybe it'll grow over time. Spread the word. If other people like to just listen to somebody talk, like what this channel is about, I encourage you to just invite them over. Someone told me the other day, you're kind of an alternate to audiobooks. No, there's nothing to see here, nothing to follow along and read. It's just a black screen. You saw a thumbnail of a beautiful image, and then you're hearing me talk. But sometimes that's all you need. I know I'll put on something to listen to, someone talking, and there may be pictures going across the screen, but I'm not watching them because I'm doing other work. It's just something to listen to get some words and knowledge in your life for the day. And hopefully that's what this channel will bring. So thank you once again, and we will see you on the next, not see you, but I'll be talking on the next video. Y'all have a blessed day. Goodbye.